Today, I want to talk about how JPMorgan just deleted 47 million records and how that's made them unable to comply with at least 12 ongoing regulatory investigations. I want to explain why all of these records were deleted and perhaps more worryingly, how the backups were deleted on purpose as well. So stay tuned and let's make some money. And now I'm going to dive straight in with the key information. So, Unusual Wells tweeted saying breaking news. JPMorgan mistakenly deleted 47 million records, the SEC has alleged. Now, as just another rat toy tweeted, per the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, there should be annual copies of these missing documents held for at least 7 consecutive years on separate electronic media. aka there should be separate yearly records, aka at least 7 separate copies held on separate external media, aka external hard drives or floppy disks or USB drives somewhere secure off-site. So for JPMorgan to have lost 47 million records, they must have willfully destroyed all of these external copies as well. But this is where it gets even more sinister. It says one of the largest financial institutions in the industry is facing harsh penalties from a US regulator. Specifically, the SEC has fined JPMorgan after the bank accidentally and permanently deleted 47 million banking records from its system. The specific deleted records come in the form of tens of millions of emails from employees. So that means actually that JPMorgan has gone purposefully into employees' email databases and deleted those employees and the records as well. And it says, moreover, the report indicated that JPMorgan is now unable to comply with at least 12 civil securities related regulatory probes to comply with subpoenas and document requests for communications that have been permanently deleted. aka for any of those Department of Justice investigations into illegal short selling, JPMorgan has now just magically lost all of the data. And that means JPMorgan cannot appropriately comply with at least 12 regulatory investigations that are still ongoing. How coincidental that JPMorgan just accidentally deleted all of these records and the backups for those records and the backups for the backups and now can't comply with these investigations. And now Biggums has actually related this data deletion, interestingly, to the swap is the renewals. He tweeted saying, first time the contracts were about to be renewed, we had the Iron Mountain data center fire. Remember that video of them taking away the burning papers? But this time the 9-month swap contracts are due for renewal and they've just deleted 47 million records. Whoops. As Biggums added, he said if these swap contracts were going to ruin me, I'd much rather have a slap on the wrist and a small $4 million SEC fine instead of bankrupting tons and tons of hedge funds. If all of these total return swaps were somehow renewed, which they can't really be considering they've pushed AMC's price down even further with even more illegal shorting, it would have likely bankrupted many of these hedge funds and potentially even some minor or major banks as well. And therefore, instead of all of this data coming out or these contracts being properly renewed, JPMorgan has just decided to delete all of the data and all of the records. That way all JPMorgan has received is a small $4 million fine because of the accept and consent waivers. It seems like a very easy way out for one of the world's largest institutions and all of their hedge fund customers. Because you have to remember that at least 3,000 hedge funds operate underneath the JPMorgan umbrella and operate on their platforms. That means JPMorgan has 3,000 hedge fund customers regularly paying them monthly fees to use their platforms and to use their offices and everything else JPMorgan provides. So instead of JPMorgan effectively bankrupting tons of their hedge fund customers, they've just accidentally lost and deleted all of the data and everything for those hedge funds is now fine. Or as fine as heavily over-leveraged and nearly bankrupt hedge funds can be. But something I do think is very interesting is that even the House Financial Services Committee is noticing how lax and how useless Gary Gensler actually is. Here they've tweeted saying under questioning from Rep. Huizenga, the general counsel for Gary Gensler's SEC refuses to answer basic questions about the agency's unwillingness to respond appropriately to congressional inquiries. Why does Gensler's SEC fear transparency? So even the Financial Services Committee is noticing how useless Gary Gensler and his SEC actually are. Not only in terms of performing adequate investigations, but also in terms of adequately responding to their inquiries. Now again, I think we've really got two separate sides at the moment. Is Gary Gensler actually useless, and is getting rid of Gary Gensler a good idea? Or are they now trying to get rid of Gary Gensler now that he's actually going after the short sellers? Obviously, on one hand, you can see a lot of the rules the SEC has not passed would have actually increased transparency, and by not doing so, he's actually been helping the short sellers. And therefore, by getting rid of Gary Gensler and changing the dynamic of the SEC, aka not letting Hester Peirce become the new chair, may actually be good for going after short sellers. But obviously, as I said, on the other hand, Gary Gensler has recently started going after these short sellers, and now all of a sudden everyone wants to get rid of him ASAP as soon as possible, literally in the next few weeks. I don't know if Gary Gensler is actually doing some good, or if it's too little too late, or if Gary Gensler is secretly still in the shorts back pocket, or if he's actually not in the shorts back pocket and that's why they're trying to get rid of him. From what I have seen, yes, the SEC have started going after short sellers, but they're still going after the small fries and not going after the big guys like Citadel Securities. But at the same time, in pretty much any interview I've seen the SEC in, or any time the SEC is being questioned, they're absolutely rubbish at answering questions and just try and skirt around everything. I do really think something more should be done about JPMorgan magically deleting all of these records and literally receiving zero punishment for it, especially as they can now no longer apply to at least 12 ongoing investigations. But some absolute brilliant news that I do have is from this tweet from James Drew. He tweeted saying that he spoke to O'Keefe Media Group, aka that he spoke to James O'Keefe just now, and was told he'd be invited up as a speaker tonight via a space call. He said, "I can explain what really happened back in January of 2021. He can explain the SEC reports and the disappearing short interest, and that he can keep pressing because he's never leaving." Regardless of whether this is about AMC or GameStop or MMTLP, I think bringing any kind of indication of financial crimes to James O'Keefe's attention is brilliant news. We know James O'Keefe has got a part 2 of his video to the BlackRock investigation, and I would hope as a result of this space call that he investigates more to do with AMC, GameStop and MMTLP. Obviously, the more of James O'Keefe's attention we can draw to what's actually going on in the markets is always a good thing. Especially because you know that James O'Keefe always pulls through and always manages to get some kind of secret investigative documentary from one of a high-ranking level employee. Whether it's someone high up at Pfizer or someone high up at BlackRock, or potentially over the next few weeks someone high up at Citadel, it's all good news for us. Hopefully he can investigate further and dive deeper than anyone else before in terms of investigating exactly what happened to AMC, GameStop and MMTLP, and not just investigate, but also resolve the situation with a squeeze. Now, Discussing Film has also tweeted saying the first trailer for the GameStop Reddit Chaos movie, Dumb Money, has just been released. They've said the film releases in September 2022 in theatres. Now, if you haven't already noticed, it has a brilliant lineup of big actors like Seth Rogen, Pete Davidson, and many others, playing characters like Roaring Kitty or Keith Gill, Ken Griffin, Gabe Plotkin, and many others as well. Obviously, I will leave the link to this trailer down in the description below, but I also wanted to play this trailer for you now to finish off this video. So guys, be sure to let me know what you think down in the comments below. And as always guys, be sure to ding that notification bell, because that way you'll be alerted when I upload a new video. Cheers.